that real hip hop.
Y'all know how we do.
You're listening to Philly's own Matthias, aka Mr. 16 Bars, that real hip hop.
We try to tell people that Philly is a special breed. They hate to see us on top, they hate to see us on. They hate to see us come up, they hate we on. They hate the moves that we make because it's made to break them. We give them knowledge on tracks and hope our words can save them. I guess it's hard to give props when you know you lesser. So we right on your heels, I hope you feel the pressure. Rappers faking a role, my shoes will never fit them. Before you come at a king, I let my soldiers get them. I'm from Philly with hot corners, they turn chilly. Tight shirts with tight jeans, they never feel me. Young boys confused, they think I'm too preachy. Old head in the game and still rep my city. I'm from Philly where hot corners they turn chilly. Tight shirts with tight jeans, they never feel me. Young boys confused, they think I'm too preachy. Old head in the game and still reppin' Philly. Big beards with four wheelers, we so Philly. Blow loud and pop pills, that's my city. It's the home of Joe Frazier and I'm Balboa. You can act like Creed and you'll get ran over. Young boys, they pop willies around the block. Watching out for cops that wanna run in spots. It's the home of cheesesteaks and soft pretzels. Black 9s and 45s with chrome metal. Where we look to the east to try to mix a lot. Where the church is in every ghetto and every block. Ignorance is high because the pay is low. Where we hustle with nicks and try to make it grow. Eagle fans, we bleed green, that's our team. Watch the Flyers on ice, we on that hockey scene. Wells Fargo Center, watching the Sixers play. Red baseball caps, that's just the Philly way.
Welcome to this episode of Philly on the Rise. As you know, I'm your host, Michael W. Pleasant. And this week, Philly on the Rise finds us in our downtown studios. We're actually in our downtown studios, and we're joined by Rahim Islam. He's a very, very busy man. Very busy man. I think he's catching a flight tomorrow. And he got off of a flight last night, but he's taking some time out of his schedule. He's joining us here on the program just to talk about some new things that are going on with PCOL, Universal Companies. Rahim Islam, welcome back to Philly on the Rise.
I'm here.
You are about to make history again because this is your second time on the program, and I don't typically have repeat guests.
Oh, okay.
So this is something new for us.
Oh, cool.
You've got some, obviously some good and positive things to say about our community, so that's why you're back. So you ready to make history?
Thank you so much. Absolutely. I love it. I love your spirit.
That's good stuff, good stuff. Let's talk about PCOL,
Right.
Philadelphia Community of Leaders, because that's a program that you are a part of. And for those of us who don't know what PCOL is about, tell us.
Well, Philadelphia Community of Leaders is about how do we organize our community to deal with some of the issues we face. And some of those issues that we face are structural in nature and historical in nature. And so the current strategies that we're using, all of us doing different things, trying to fight this fight on behalf of our people, is not working. And so the Philadelphia Community Leaders is, can we create a strategic think tank, a strategic mind, a strategic place or table where we can now aggregate our capacities to begin dealing with some of these institutional issues. We have people who are fighting, crime prevention. We have people who are trying to deal with reentry. You got people trying to educate our children. You got people trying to, keep homeless people off the street. Some of us trying to protect our families.
And these are some of the specific programs you're referring to?
Well, no, these are things that are happening in the community.
Okay.
But guess what? Needle's not moving.
Okay, okay.
Every demographic we look at today is in the last 30 years are getting worse. And what's more alarming is that the next 15 to 30 years, these demographics are going to get worse. So, and because the pipeline that creates these demographics are prime. And so this is not a drive-by. We can't do a drive-by approach and think that one of us is going to change these dynamics. We have a shot when we can aggregate our capacity. We can pull ourselves together and create some central thought of how we defend ourselves as a people against a trajectory that doesn't look good now and doesn't look good for the future.
And let's talk about the specifics of what PCOL is doing. I know there's obviously meetings a couple times a year. There's different workshops and seminars. So let's talk about the specifics of what you're doing with PCOL.
The number one issue is to deal with the halt and to ultimately slow down and halt the poverty, the issue of poverty. And we bucket poverty in 5 areas: economics, education, public safety, health and wellness, and last but not least, cultural enrichment. So those are the 5 areas that we're kind of focusing on. And what our goal is to aggregate our capacities, the people who work in those different buckets come together to work side by side to create a strategic plan. And so on the economics, we're really pushing in 2016 a real economic plan, because at the end of the day, we need investment into our community. We need jobs into our community. We need businesses to grow into our community. We need wealth in our communities. So we now have a parallel plan on the economics, both political and economic. But our overall goal is to deal with the issue of poverty in the Black community, and in dealing with poverty, we deal with those 5 areas.
Now, poverty in the Black community, which is a multifaceted issue, and you can trace it back years and years ago.
Historical.
It's historical.
Absolutely.
Beginning with slavery.
Absolutely.
And all the way to segregation.
Right.
And now we have gentrification, and now we have institutionalized racism.
Right.
That also is hurting, however you want to say it, keeping us down.
Without
to a certain
question.
extent. How can we possibly eradicate this generational?
Well, it's not going to be done in a generation. We're looking at 400 years that we're competing against. This thing has evolved and grown. I call it mature, like cement now. And so we have to now contend with very seasoned structures and systems that are working to benefit others, not us. What we have to do is organize ourselves first. Then we got to go about the work of organizing those systems to work for us. And that's not going to happen because we do a march or we do a rally. It's going to march because we understand those systems and how they work, and we can now influence those systems to work better for us. It's going to require a significant amount of strategic thinking. But also the things that we've got to deal with historically are 2 things. Our inability to muster and aggregate our resources. That's a legacy of slavery. And I say that we're not as divided as we are disconnected. So it makes it very easy for us to do it. Philadelphia community leaders are attempting to do it. The second one is that it's got to be sustained. We're talking about 400 years of oppression that most of us want to see happen in our generation. It's not going to happen that way. We got to create a pipeline that will be able to contend with this issue well after we're dead and gone to the next generation. But we can't be one and done. We haven't had a real big victory as a people since the 60s, when we had the civil rights legislation of the 60s. It should have been civil rights, or there should have been additional legislations, wins every decade.
Sure.
And as a result, so in order for that to happen, we have to have the infrastructure in place that's going to defend us and protect us and carry out that mission. This is what the goal of the Philadelphia community leaders is attempting to do, to create something that will be generational going down, and that as we go, we don't have to keep building each generation is starting over. And right now, for the most part, in the Afro-American community, we're starting over.
One of the reasons why, in my opinion, you mentioned we haven't had a big win since the 60s. We have the 60s, the civil rights movement.
And by the way, we've had not only had a big win, we've had several interruptions.
Okay, let's talk about integration, because integration was obviously to bring us into the mainstream, but in reverse, I think it also hurt our community.
Absolutely.
Because no longer are we supporting Black-owned businesses, no longer are we doing certain things that help our community grow. So integration is good, but is there a way how we can still have the integration, but still see our communities flourish?
Well, first of all, let me just give you some facts. All right, since 1960, or even pre-integration, in the second grade, we were more segregated, technically. We're more segregated now than we've been since 1960. All right, so that's a fact. 75% of Black people live in 51 cities. Okay, so we're more segregated now than we've ever been. The real issue was not integration, segregation, is to deal with the issue of the civil and the legal support for segregation. That's just absolutely false, flawed completely, and having 2 sets of rules, one for white and one for Black. So we got to eliminate that. So the fight to eliminate that was absolutely necessary, and one we should have waged, and we won that one. That was the victory.
Sure.
But the integration part of how we define what success looks like is a function of one of the 5 pillars I talked about earlier for eliminating poverty.
Okay.
And that is cultural identity. If we had more of a cultural identity, we'd know who we were and what we were. They could have removed the legal barriers, but we didn't have to move because we would have treasured more of our own. Okay. We would have fought more of our own. So as long as we're defining success as how close we are to white people, then we're never going to win. We have to define success from the center of an African-centered perspective, not a European-centered. That means we define blackness or success as how black are you? Can you align your personal goals to the goals of your people? Do you identify your beauty with the beauty of your people? Do you identify your success by how well you can help your people, not how far you can get away from your people? That was the measure of success and still is today. So we could deal with economics, we could deal with public safety, we could deal with education, we could deal with almost all the issues. If we don't focus on enriching and making it prideful, increasing the pride for being black, we will lose.
But we live in a generation now where it's me, myself, and I. I have to look after my family, I have to move my family
That's a European-centered concept.
Okay.
That is not an African-centered concept. The African-centered concept is a concept of the family. It's a concept of a structure of the elders. It's a concept of that we are connected by two ways. The present is connected to the past and to the future. That's the African-centered concept. Okay. And as long as we on a European-centered concept, you're right, we're going to have challenges. Our goal is to attract, most of us, we might practice that, but we don't feel it. We are just assimilating that concept. Our real natural practice is to practice the concept where we honor our ancestors and we honor our elders and we do what we need to do to protect our future.
Now, some of this is lost. It's not, obviously,
it's no question. But
right.
This is why we have to double down, triple down, work with the organizations who are out there calling for us to do these kind of things. There are a number of organizations, but we're not paying attention to them. All right, we've let them go almost die because, again, we've assimilated to a point, to a culture, to a climate that's European-centered. European-centered, there's an illusion. There's no way that we're going to transfer our blackness into whiteness. No way. We got to accept who we are. And by the way, if we understand our history, we will come to understand that the difference between inferiority, which we see a lot of, and oppression.
Okay.
We cannot make the distinction if we don't understand who we are. We cannot make that distinction if we don't understand our history. And I'm not talking about 65,000 years of history. I'm just talking about our history in the last 150 years.
So you're just talking about education. That's what it's about. You need to educate yourself, pick up a book, go to the internet, go to Google, educate yourself on who you are.
At a minimum. We just come through the celebration of Dr. Martin Luther King. And Dr. Martin Luther King, I'll tell you, there's so much. This is a resource untapped in our community. We talk about him in ways that create him as not as being human. So therefore, in effect, we aren't able to replicate his power and his legacy. But when we look at him and I'll take one quote that he used, and he referred to H. Rap Brown, when H. Rap Brown said to the white establishment, if you don't start treating us better as a people, we're gonna burn, baby, burn. And Dr. King's response was that he says, no, we can't burn, baby, burn. We gotta build, baby, build.
Okay.
He said, we gotta organize, baby, organize. He says, then we also gotta learn, baby, learn, so we can earn, baby, earn. So that is what who's gonna do it? How does that get done?
Sure.
We need a vehicle. We need an infrastructure to deliver that. And it can't be left upon any one organization in the black community. It has to be a critical mass of thinkers who bring in skills to the table, who can think alike and can figure this thing out and understand that we, from an African-centered perspective, we are one.
Sure. Yes. And this is one of the purposes of the Philadelphia Corporation's leaders.
Absolutely.
Let's talk about the motivation, because there are some folks who don't care about, PCOL and don't care about enlightenment and helping our community. How do we motivate those folks who just don't simply care?
Well, let me just say this, that it's always going to be the challenge of wherever you are in generation, in history of life, there's never been a movement where everybody was involved and everybody took purpose of it. What has happened is that life gets in the way. You know, we got our share of knuckleheads. We got our share of smart people. We got our share of people who are concerned and people who are not concerned, who will never be concerned. We got our share of good, bad, and indifferent in our community. What we have to do is create a net that's big enough to attract those who are conscious.
How do we attract those
Well,
folks?
that's what we're doing to Philadelphia community leaders.
Okay.
We put out the net,
Okay.
thinking about oneness. So those are the people who are going to respond.
Sure.
And by the way, I take the position, being in America is in the belly of the beast. As a black man in America, we're in the belly of the beast. We are influenced by white supremacy no matter what, and black inferiority. Now, we're better able to sustain ourselves and defend ourselves in that environment the more we know about who we are.
Sure.
The less we know, the least we are able to sustain ourselves. But we all are damaged by it. We could just do a small test and determine, oh, we're not black enough, okay? We're damaged. We think that we are inferior. So the bottom line is that what we got to do is attract those who are the least damaged.
Okay.
No, what I see you doing all the time, trying to figure out, trying to invoke thought about our community. You're constantly thinking about our community. So you might have issues, but you're one of the least damaged. If we can get more of those who are least damaged thinking together, talking together, working together, understanding that we're not going to move this situation by ourselves. We can only move this situation when we come together. And when I say come together, I don't mean all 650,000 African Americans in Philadelphia, but a critical mass of people who can think alike, work together, and work on behalf of our community.
So are you pleased with the progress of PCOL? Obviously, we're heading in the right direction.
We're an infancy organization. We're absolutely moving in the right direction. It's
How old?
This is going into our third year now.
Third year, okay.
Very, very struggle. Absolute struggle.
Struggle from within, struggle from without.
From within. Again, we're dealing with a mindset of 50 years of free agency. 50 years of me, myself, and I. Is that what you said?
Yeah.
We're dealing with, so people actually believe that what they're going to do is going to change the mass incarceration of our people. That what they're going to do is going to change the mass poverty of our people. Or what they're going to do is change the demise of the black family and the black community. The black man is out of position for a reason. The black community is out of position for a reason. The black family is out of position. The black man and woman is out of position. And key to that, the black man is out of position by design. And I can show you, I can demonstrate 20 things that are absolute things that black men have to deal with that no other group has to deal with in this country.
Okay. Let's talk about Black Lives Matter, because that's a group, I guess, a generation or two beneath you, my generation, if you will. They're doing some things. What are your initial thoughts on the Black Lives Matter?
I've written a lot about Black Lives Matter, and I believe 100% Black lives will only matter if they matter to us. Okay, so you can't ask other people to love you. So I don't worry about integration and racism and everything. The way you respond to be better than they are.
And that's a strong concern of some, that they're only concerned, it seems to be, with the external forces that are affecting our community.
You lost.
What about the internal things?
You cannot. You know how Black Lives Matter? When you make them matter yourself. You do for yourself. And unfortunately, those groups, or no one group can do it for ourselves. We have to do it together.
A collective.
We are at the bottom. We have to recognize it's like a drug addict. In order for him to be on the path towards freeing himself from this addiction, he has to first recognize he is an addict. We have to first recognize that we are in trouble. We are in a belly of the beast. We have been damaged by white supremacy. And many of our responses are a response to white supremacy. Our problem is, our issue, and we will begin to move this needle until we absolutely begin to understand and believe in the concept of do for self. It is fundamental. And as Marcus Garvey said, is race first. And as Elijah Muhammad said, is do for self.
Understood. So, one of the founding members of PCOL, CEO of universal companies. Last time we were here, we were talking about the expansion rate. How are we doing? Where are we now? We're in different parts of the country?
Yeah, we're you know, our home is Philadelphia. Our base is in South Philadelphia. We're in South Philadelphia. We're working in 3 areas. You know, economic development, community development, and school education. And we have a K-12 continuum. Our goal now is to look at 2 parts of the continuum in the education continuum we're not doing, which is early childhood education and post-12th grade education, which is vocational training or workforce development for adults.
Okay.
And then we also do a significant amount of community organizing. Again, fundamental to address the issues that face black people in America is that we're not organized. And so communities that are underperforming or in need of revitalization are because they lack the leadership needed to defend themselves. So you got to organize. So those are 3 areas we work in, both in South Philadelphia. We're doing a little bit more in Newark. Okay. And also Milwaukee. Yeah. But we got to be careful of not spreading ourselves too thin. The message, though, is one, we call it the universal plan. And that plan, it goes back to the very basic that we just talked about.
5,
well, no, actually, the 2 principles of, you know, we're not apologetic that we're going to try to address the issues of the black man.
Sure.
The black man is in trouble. Mm-hmm. Every demographic speaks it out very loudly. If we don't do anything very soon, and I have a number of different reasons why I make this statement, very soon we will become permanent second-class citizens in America. Second-class citizenship is equivalent to 21st century slavery.
Okay, okay. We can also find you once a week. You have a radio show, Universally Speaking.
Oh yeah, and we actually moved our radio show in WRD on to Sundays at 1 to 2.
Okay.
And then I also do 2 radio shows in Milwaukee on WNOV.
Okay.
Mondays Central Time 3 to 5, and Fridays 3 to 5.
And these same messages you're echoing on all radio stations.
And I write for 7 newspapers.
7 newspapers.
7 newspapers.
Why not 8?
Well, I'm working on 8.
Okay, don't stop at 7. Just keep it going.
But we write the same issues, all the issues. You know, I just did two articles, the last 2 articles on the reflection of Dr. King and preserving his legacy. His name, his life, his legacy has been tarnished and been hijacked. He was not the pacifist that they talked about. He was a liberator. He was a fighter for our people, and his life is the legacy, is the example of the struggle of black people in America.
Where are some of these papers? Different states throughout the country?
Yeah, in fact, we in the Sunday Sun here in Philadelphia, but one of the ones who carry the articles, some of them carry a portion of the articles.
Sure.
But Milwaukee Courier, which I can give you that, they carry the full article, which is a lot of real estate in the newspaper world.
That's good to know. That's good to know. That's good to know. Tell us, we're coming to a close, but we need to know one interesting fact about Rahim Islam. We know that you're all over the place with your professional career, and you're on the forefront, you know, helping black folk, but we need to know one interesting fact.
Well, one of the things, I've always grew up loving children.
Okay.
All right?
I know you have 9?
No, 10.
10? Oh, Lord. Okay.
And so one interesting fact that I would think that somebody told me one day that Rahim, they said, you didn't trust your children to have grandchildren, so you had your own. So my oldest son is 36.
Okay.
And my youngest daughter is 6 months.
Wow. Okay. All right. So you're not done.
No, I'm in the mix.
Okay.
I'm active. I love my children. I work with my children. They're an extension.
Your wife, 10 children?
Yeah. Well. Different. It wasn't
okay. All right.
Oh, yeah.
We'll edit that part.
That's another.
That's no, sir. We'll edit that.
We start talking.
We're gonna cut that part.
No, I mean I'm not ashamed. I'm very happy. I love my children. Again, when I was growing up, I wanted a lot of children. Didn't know what that meant. Didn't know how that would look.
Okay.
Neither did I set out a path to do it.
Okay.
It just happened, and I'm just extremely honored and gifted by having children that I love. They love me. They have challenges that all children have, but they are very good children, and they're very focused, and I think that, they will continue this whole struggle that I think that...
So you want them to continue in your footsteps?
They have to.
They have to. It's mandatory.
It's for all children.
Okay, sure.
For all black people, part of, again, the center of African-centered focus is that you have to understand, but you are here but for the people who've come before you, so you have to pave a way for the people to come behind you.
Brother Islam, you've made history. The second show we've done. Again, I don't have repeat guests, but...
when you say history, I'm like, whoa, man, that's a big word.
How did you feel to make history?
I love it.
Good.
You know what? I really believe that... I really believe in this whole concept of the universal plan and this whole Philadelphia community leaders, and I think we can make history.
Yeah.
I said, and I am really part of what I struggle with in trying to communicate to our community is that if we're going to get out of this struggle, we're going to have to earn it, and that means making history.
And we will continue to make history. Now, last time you were here, you promised, I have it on tape.
Okay.
You promised.
Don't even remember.
That's okay. I'm going to remind you. Donuts and coffee. That's what you said.
Did I?
Yeah, the last time you were here.
Well, I brought coffee.
We'll take the coffee. Brother Rahim
Mike,
Islam.
thanks so much,
You're
man.
welcome.
I appreciate you very much, man.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Thank you for joining us for this episode of Philly on the Rise, and we'll see you soon.
That real hip hop.
Y'all know how we do.
You're listening to Philly's own Matthias, aka Mr. 16 Bars. That real hip hop.
We try to tell people that Philly is a special breed. They hate to see us on top, they hate to see us on, they hate to see us come up, they hate the moves that we make because it's made to break them. We give them knowledge on tracks and hope our words can save them. I guess it's hard to give props when you know you lesser, so we right on your heels. I hope you feel the pressure. Rappers faking a role, my shoes that never fit them.